In today's tutorial, we are going to make a simple dog bandana that will go right over your dog's collar. And it's going to have the little points and you can put bells on it. It's going to be super cute. So here is what you're going to need. This one is going to be a larger bandana, the one that I'm going to show you. It will be 12 inches wide and about 8 inches from the collar to the point when it is completed for a bigger dog. And then I will also have sizing and ways to make the same concept for smaller dogs as well, but I'm going to show you the bigger dog one first. The first thing you're going to need is a fabric that's going to go over your collar. So the green piece in the center, we're going to cut to 5 inches by 13 inches. We need it a little bit wider than the bandana triangle section because we're going to fold those edges over and sew them and want this green to be 12 inches when all is said and done. This is going to make the points. You're going to need 10 pieces of this because we're going to have 5 points, and this is 4 inches by 5 inches. Then you need 2 pieces for the bandana section. So you need 2 that measures 12 inches by 7 inches. So we can put this one aside for now. We need to do a little bit of cutting on these pieces. So first we're going to take the bandana part, and I'm going to line this up on the mat. So the first thing we're going to do is I'm going to take a heat erasable pen and I'm going to make a little mark 1/4 inch from the top. That's going to be our seam allowance when we sew it to this green piece. Then we're going to find the center. This is 12 inches wide, so it's going to be 6 in from each side. Put a little point there. And then I'm going to cut in between those lines. So now I'm just lining my ruler up between that point, and I'm going to cut off both of these outside triangles to give me the bandana shape for this over the collar dog bandana. And now we are going to prepare our points. So I'm going to cut these in sets of 2 and just keep them together. And this is 4 inches wide, 5 inches tall. So you're just going to cut from the top corner down to that 2-inch point so that we're making long, skinny triangles. And then I'm going to set them aside and keep them in their pairs of 2 because they're matched up perfectly to go and stitch together. It can be a little tricky to guesstimate where you need to turn to get to the 1/4 inch on this side. So what you can do is take a ruler and a heat erasable pen, put it on the 1/4 inch along that second edge, and then just draw a little line about where it's going to meet. And then you're going to know where you need to pivot when you get to that point. So I'm going to do that on each set. And then I'm also going to just put a pin down the center just to help everything stay in place as we move and sew these. Now I'm going to sew down both of these edges with a 1/4 inch seam. And you're going to sew until your needle hits that line that we drew, and then you're going to have the perfect point to pivot to do the 1/4 inch up the other side. Before we turn the triangles right side out, we're going to need to do some serious trimming because you can see there's very, very little space in there for all of this fabric. So you definitely need that top edge cut off, but then you also need to come down on the sides pretty close to that stitching at the end without cutting the stitching. We need to do that for all 5. Now we are just going to turn these right side out. And then I'm going to use this little turning tool very gently. You don't want it to push through your stitching. And you're going to get that point out as well as you can. Next, we're going to iron the short ends of the green, which is going to go over the collar, in twice to encapsulate that raw edge. Now this is 13 inches wide. You'll notice it is shorter than this. So once we get it folded, we want the folded edge of the green to match this red for the bandana section. So you just want to fold a 1/4 inch and then a 1/4 inch on each side. Now I did take and trim off the dog ears on all of these so that our triangles are straight across the top. Then I lined up the bandana along a grid line so that we can place these properly. And I'm going to start 3/4 of an inch from the edge. So make sure you leave some some room there because this is going to be stitched 1/4 inch and then that needs to be stitched too. So we need to make sure these are not going to get caught in those seams. And what I like to do is I like to work from the outside in for how I have these triangles overlapped. So the second one, I like to put 1.5 inches from this point to this point and do that on both sides. And then your last one, get centered. So now you're either going to pin or clip these. I'm just going to make sure I get a clip at each of these triangles points so that they're not going to shift or pivot. Okay, so I'm going to take this to the machine. We're going to baste that on, and then we're going to come back and we're going to attach both of these triangles to the green. Now that we have the triangles basted onto this side, we're now going to be sewing the 2 sides of the bandana together. I'm going to start with the plain one, the one that doesn't have the points first. So that's just going to be the easiest to do. And as you'll notice, my tips go off a little bit on the ends. That's okay. I'm going to sew it, and then I'm going to press it like this, and then I will trim that part. So if you're slightly off, no worries, scissors will fix it. So I'm just going to clip these together, and you want this to be right sides together. And remember, even though the green is green on both sides, since we did fold this over, this part is the back, and the part that doesn't show the fold is going to be on the outside. So you're going to pin that. I'm going to sew that together with a 1/4 inch seam. You can see there's just that teeny bit off the edge. You can see it better from this side. So I'm just going to trim that. Now we're going to put this right side up, and we're going to put this one right side down on the opposite side. We're just going to make sure that's centered. So if it's a little bit over the edge, it's a little bit over the edge evenly, and that this point is on the same line as this point. I'm going to clip this together, and we're going to sew this on just the same way we did this one with the 1/4 inch seam. Now we have both sides of the bandana sewn onto the center green. That's going to fold in half. That's where your dog collar goes through. The next step is going to be to match the red raw edges and sew around with a 1/4 inch seam. But you might see a problem. We have some of these triangles sticking out, so we need to deal with that first. I'm going to fold the 2 triangles on each side up a little bit and pin them so that there's plenty of clearance. So I would get it at least 1/2 inch so that it's not going to interfere with your sewing. Now we're going to fold this down, and we are going to match the raw edges of the red. And because we have a little bit of bulk with those triangles in the center, I'm going to use pins instead of clips just to make sure everything stays exactly where I want to. Now, if you liked having that line when we were sewing those triangles, you can do it again here. Just line this up with 1/4 inch onto that edge, draw a line, and you'll know when your needle gets there, that's the time to pivot. And I definitely use more pins. I would probably only do 3. I use a few more just because there's a little bit of bulk in here, and I want to make sure I get all of these edges matched up. Now we're going to go back to the sewing machine, and we're going to sew 1/4 inch here and here, nothing up here. Now we're going to turn it right side out. Put your fingers in there and grab the pins before you start turning it right side out so you do not stab yourself. Okay, so we had 2 pins. 2 pins are out. Now I can turn this right side out worry-free. So if you wanted to personalize this, you could embroider their name on the top. Now we just need to get this red part, let's see it better this way. We need to get this pressed out. So I'm going to just use my fingers, make sure we have those seams stretched all the way out. Now that we have it turned and pressed, the final step is to sew about 1/8 of an inch from this stitch line. That will sew the seam in there, and it'll make it so your channel is straight and your collar won't end up way down in the bottom. And it gives it a little bit more of a finished look. And now I'm just going to go and hand stitch on some bells. You could also do little pom-poms. You could buy these separate, or you could cut them off of here and put that on there. That would also be super, super cute. And these bells are just from the Dollar Tree. I got 40 little bells for $1.25. So I can do lots of projects because I only need 5 for this one. So what do you think? Would you put bells or pom-pom balls on yours, or would you just leave these points as they are? Let me know in the comments. I'd love to see pictures of your dog in a cute little Christmas dog bandana, so be sure to tag me if you post them on Instagram. Happy holidays.